What is going on YouTube? Chrono here and welcome back to another PSO2 video. So today I'm actually going to go over a damage calculator that has popped up quite some time ago. And I'll be honest, this is kind of like a precursor video to a couple of videos I'll be doing on the channel. Figured I wanted to go over this, kind of show how it works, how you can use it for your own advantage to figure out, what's going to be better upgrades for you and how much of an upgrade it actually is. It's something we're going to be using moving forward in the channel quite a bit. It looks like this is going to be updated for quite some time. And the previous damage calculator that was made looks like it's stopped being updated, so gotta move on to something else. Each time this happens, if a new damage calculator comes out we're gonna be using on the channel, I'm gonna go ahead and make one of these videos to go ahead and show off how you can use it and how it works. These videos are usually gonna be a little bit longer since it's almost kind of tutorial-esque, but it's going to help us in the future for other videos where we're showcasing things like augmentation combinations and budget setups for individuals that are trying to get some more damage out of their character. Before we jump into that guys, really random, I honestly just decided to throw this in the video like in the last second, but I actually tweeted out my NGS headline recommendation. This was just something that we talked about on stream. Let me know what you guys think about the take. I went ahead and messaged it in my Discord as well as tossed it up over on YouTube. So I think this would be an awesome change to see as far as PSE is concerned, because it would give a more level playing field to PSE instead of it jackknifing back and forth all the time and being a total mess when it comes to random rooms. Essentially just a short version, PSE increases or decreases when you kill random enemies. It doesn't fall any lower than 2 anymore, but when you kill a trial it always goes up. Killing a chaos trial makes it go up by 2, and then of course the special trials make it go up by even more. So it's super cool to see this change. Essentially what would happen would be greatly reducing the effect of random kills affecting the PSE and making it so it just never goes down. So if you ever get to a situation where you're at 4 stacks and you happen to be next to a trial, killing that trial would then of course cause the PSE to pop. But feel free to let me know what you guys think, whether it be in the comments or if you pop over to the tweet and toss a comment on there. I'd love to see what your ideas are for PSE. But let's go ahead and get started. Warning, flashbang. This is a Google sheet, so it's going to be bright. All right, so is this the right page I wanted to start on? No, I want to start over here. Actually, this makes more sense. So shout out to Cakewalk who actually made this table. This was actually based on the previous table that we used to use by Ryatsu. The damage formula and the general layout was basically based on that. And then you've got the weapons data being gathered from the Arc's Physophone. The bestiary is where they're gathering the monster defense data. And then of course, the verification data storage where they're gathering, class-based stats, enemy attack stats, so on and so forth. Shout out to those individuals who took care of making these. Of course, proper credit was tossed in here, so that's super cool. And then of course just an FAQ talking about how this actually works out, but I'm gonna give a quick TLDR. Shouldn't be too difficult to understand how to manipulate this little process. So first thing is you need your own copy of it. I'm gonna link the original in the video description. That way you guys always get an updated version of this, but all you need to do is go up, click on file, and then click on make a copy, and then you make your own copy of this. That way you can actually edit and change things. The only things you're going to be changing realistically are going to be these orange cells and these light orange cells. Everything else you're going to probably leave alone unless you really know what you're doing. So I wouldn't mess with any of that stuff. So what is this actually going to do? This allows us to calculate damage based on a couple of different factors. Primarily, we can actually input our own data for our own characters, weapons, and augments and see how it compares to different types of enemies that we're fighting. Now, this can't really calculate situations. So things like, reduce PP costs for proper damage combos and things of that sort. It can't really calculate things like that. It's only going to calculate damage, crit chance, and crit damage. Of course, these are going to be averages based on how much you actually have. Some situations are not always going to be the case, but of course, over a long period of time, when you test things like crit chance and crit damage, it does tend to even itself out. So just keep that in mind. It may not always be the same for you. It's going to be different for a little bit of everyone else. So cool thing, first thing I would toss into here would be your add-on skills. If you are max level or have just gotten your class cubes, go ahead and you probably have seen the add-on skill system. You've probably seen my video about the add-on skill system. Add-on skills are actually pretty cool. The RNG is kind of a pain in the butt. As you can see, these are the add-on skills that I have to apply in this situation. I don't have maxed out hunter potency or melee potency, so mine's a little bit lower. But you can actually have it not affect your melee potency and just uncheck this option. Having a bit more melee potency does affect how this process works out, so it is definitely worth just slotting in what you personally have and then making sure you put a check mark next to what you're working with. Things like crit chance, crit damage are going to affect your calculations. So it's definitely important to go ahead and make sure you have this tossed in. The settings section has to do with your character, your level, and then the enemy you're facing. Cool thing is you can go to customize and choose between some of the different options here. If you pop over to, I believe it's event tab, it'll let you choose between the things that are displayed in that drop down, so you can add more things to it. Things like, let's say if you were doing, I don't know, geometric lab and you wanted to find out your damage versus boss or versus the enemies in the geometric lab, you can uncheck the bossing focus and it'll make it so it just gives you the enemy focused version, which only really matters for certain weapons. Like for example, the shell weapons, it has a higher mobbing potency than a bossing potency, versus Grega that has a higher bossing potency than mobbing potency. So it's important to know the difference between these two when you're making these analysis. But in most situations, you can kind of just leave this as is. This covers most of what you're going to need, and it's set up in a way that's going to be beneficial for you. It even goes down into covering the seasonal events, which is kind of cool. So back on the weapon analysis page, on the left-hand side here, we can actually set up what we personally have here. So we've got our weapons, we have our units with all of our augments. This is my current augment setup. I'll be, of course, updating this to something stronger. We're going to talk about some of the stronger choices that you can make for your augment setups based on what you're fighting. And of course, what you might have access to, what's going to be worth it, right? Because just more damage more spent doesn't always equal the same amount of damage you're getting out of it. So it's important to understand how much you're actually getting out of what you're spending on these items. So we've got our Kaiser here. What this does when you choose your baseline weapon is it chooses where it compares baseline wise. So because we have Kaiser selected, our baseline is Kaiser, and it's either, lesser or more than the Kaiser. You can change this to whatever you want. You don't have to actually use the drop down at all. You can literally just erase what's in here and say we want to do Kaiser MK1, bam, now it's Kaiser MK1. Say we want to do the Trolls Day weapons, now it's the Trolls Day weapon. But Kaiser is a good one to go on. Let me see, Kaiser. This is what most people built up towards, so I'm leaving mine at what I have. Of course, adjust what you've got there. And then of course you have the augments. Well, I mean, you have Fixa, but Kaisers don't have Fixa, so I wouldn't worry about that for myself personally. But if you have a Fixa, let's say, I don't know, Fixa, let's change this to, say we're crazy, we got a rugged, and then we have a Fixa, I don't know, Fixa, let's say attack 5, I don't know, there you go. Now we've got our base is right here, and as you can see, anything lower than that, it'll show the actual percentages lower, so on and so forth. So just make sure you go ahead and set this to what you personally have. And of course your Fixa if you have one. And as you can see, if you have Fixa attack 5 in here, it totally freaks out the table because that is not possible. Only no Fixa is, and then that would fix it. There you go. I'm sure they'll update this if this ever changes, so just keep an eye out for that. And if you ever need the updated table, of course, go back to the original post, make a copy of the updated table, and then of course you can start moving forward with that. Afterwards, you've got your augments. Cool thing about the augments is you can, if you're using the same augment setup on every single piece, you can set up your augments to start here. So let's say I just erase everything from here, right? Just all of this is erased, but I don't want to go through and re-enter all that in. I can just copy my entire augment setup here and just go right down and paste it, and then bam, everything's in there. So really easy, really simple to do. If you're someone who doesn't have the same augment set up across the board, of course, just slot in what you've got. The same things apply from beforehand. You can just type, erase, and you're good to go. Don't mess around with these cells whatsoever. And of course, you get your augment stats at the very bottom here. Yeah, so it gives you a couple of different notes about what's going on here, so on and so forth. You can kind of see what's up. You have things like, Alt Secreta giving us a minus. However, we've got Master giving us a positive. So we end up at 1.04, which is kind of cool. These little things are kind of helpful. You can understand exactly what you're getting out of your gear as far as what the upgrades are providing you, and even goes as far as to include things like, Belgrin with Performa and PP amounts, damage potency wise, like all these things are calculated out for you. So you don't have to worry about doing this yourself. And that's basically it when it comes down to setting this up. Afterwards, you can just pop over to the actual weapons page here, and you can see what you've got, or what things are going to do as far as, how much damage you're getting. Over here on the left, you can actually see your effective damage right here. So if you're just curious about how much damage, like effective damage you're getting, and let's say you wanted to change out an augment, how much it would affect what you've got. So let's say we went to, instead of deft might, we tossed in the might 3 now. Or sorry, the might 4s that just came out. We can see our effective damage would actually increase. However, it would drop our potency floor. So this is one of the situations where you can kind of figure out how much more damage you're going to get. Let's say Alt Secreta, we swapped that for Giga Smite 4, which just came out, and our effective damage went up again by another 2 points. So while this isn't changing its percentage wise, this or your actual effective damage is changing, so you can kind of see how these affect it. And then let's go as far as to take, let's say, Didal Soul 4 as well. These are all the new 3%. And now you can see our effective damage has gone up, but it hasn't gone up by a ton. We went from what, 103 to 109 effectively, not really breaking the bank. Now, what if we just did this for everything, right? Let's say we went across the board with all the new augments. Well, now we've jumped up to 429. So it jumps up by quite a bit when you're looking at everything. However, as you can see here, we can see that this hasn't changed too terribly much. And we can see that some of the previous amounts that weren't as great or that weren't doing as well have actually increased here. And we can talk about why that happens in just a moment. But right here, this is basically like, I want to see what augments affect my damage. This is the most of what you need here. It is just going to be the side tables right here. Of course, adding your add-on skills and things here. You do also want to make sure that you have this set properly. Like say, for example, for fighting Gigantics, as you can see, our effective damage does decrease by quite a bit because not only do Gigantics have a defense modifier, they're also higher level than us. So that does make a difference here. So your damage is going to vary depending upon the content that you're doing. Let's see, Stupid Gorge, kind of annoying, but these enemies are 64, so not the end of the world. But I usually use the customize level 60 enemies that we usually fight and have set to bossing. So this is pretty average of what we're going to usually deal with. So I would normally leave this here, but you can also, of course, adjust this for whatever type of content you personally are doing. And if you're ever curious about what's in each individual cell, you can click and see what the actual formulas are in these cells. Again, I wouldn't mess with these unless you know exactly what it is you're doing, but that's besides the point. You're able to see how this works out. The weapon comparison table is actually pretty awesome as well. This lets you know how much stronger, how much weaker certain weapons are with your specific setup. If you click over here on the weapons tab, you can actually choose what weapons you want to see filtered. It shows what the potency of the weapons are. This is calculated with each weapon at the strongest it possibly can be. Keep in mind, 1 to 6 stars now go up to plus 60 and have a level 5 potential, which has done some pretty funny stuff to some of these weapons. Weapons like Trolls and the Thesis weapons actually have quite a bit of use now, so it is worth taking a look at them. But these are also calculated in their best case scenarios. Things like Thesis and Trolls require certain amounts of stat investment to get the most out of them, and if you don't have enough stat, you're not getting the the full value. And as of right now, there is not a way to calculate the exact value that you're getting. At least I'm pretty sure it's not calculating that value, because it doesn't actually show how much attack we're getting out of our gear. I'm pretty sure this is all calculated based on the maximum rolls of what these are capable of providing, not what you currently have as your actual attack value. If this is, feel free to correct me in the comments below. If Cake happens to see this video, by all means, DM me and let me know if something is happening different here, or if there's something I can update. I'll toss an addendum in either the video description, or I'll toss it in a pinned comment for you guys. But as of right now, to my knowledge, it's not taking that into account overall. So keep in mind, while these values are awesome, it may not be absolutely correct. Things like the Trolls Dangerous Thesis. Everything else seems to be on point, to be honest. Like even toggling the Trinitas thing here actually factors in the extra amount of damage you get for using a Kukurosia in Trinitas, which is awesome. So worth taking a look at there too. And then of course you have the values, or the damage values, or effective damage, excuse me, of each weapon with each amount of fixed attack type. These are just percentages, and these are raw values. So you can see which of these two, I mean, basically it's pretty much just information overall. I prefer this here because it's just easier to look at a glance how much stronger, how much weaker something is. Like for example, Obsidia's got 1.2% damage on the Kaiser, which is kind of annoying, but also not the end of the world. Where, Rugged Pursuit, I believe this is being estimated currently. Yeah, this is still being estimated. But Rugged Pursuit, while Pursuit's activated, is like 6% damage, but while it's not, it's like minus 2.9. So just something really cool, really cool tool you can mess around with, see how much extra damage you're getting, see if, upgrading all of that gear is gonna be worth it for you. So like, dude, let's say for example, what's the other example of what I was looking at? Let's say we upgraded to the new armor as well. Let's see how much damage we actually get out of all of that. We're not gonna have any performance, we're not gonna have anything. Hang on, no fixa. Make sure you set this to no fixa. Don't set it to just nothing, because it will freak out. The no fixa does have a value, so it's important to make sure you set that properly. No fixa. So if we were going for the strongest setup we possibly could, we would be going with a rugged. And you can see our estimated damage. As you can see, it looks like it's lower because of the Kaiser being 3% higher. But you also have to remember that this is estimated without the chase damage being applied as well. Chase damage is going to increase that, so we could always use just the Kaiser instead. So let's get Kaiser in here, and there we go. So with the Kaiser, we're looking at 432 at this point. So we went from what, 403 to 432 effective damage. Not bad, pretty substantial. You do lose a little bit of defense, but of course you're not losing out on minus HP. You don't have negative values for defenses, so that's always very nice. But this is an insanely expensive setup. But it's cool to look at, you know, how much more damage you're effectively getting versus what you currently have. Is like, I mean, upgrades aren't gonna be the same for everyone. Everyone plays at a different level. Everyone does different types of content. Everyone plays for a different amount of time. So telling someone that plays like maybe an hour a day and they are just doing casual content, you know, farming with their friends, telling them to get the best in slot gear doesn't really make much sense for them when, you know, someone else who is playing all the time, who's trying to do some of the top end content, is not upgrading their gear. You know, how useful are these upgrades actually going to be for them? So this is, again, this is a tool we're going to use. We're going to use this in, you know, future videos as well to showcase some augment setups, to showcase, you know, some budget setups, so on and so forth, and even talk about, you know, class combinations and so on. But that's all I've got for you guys. I'm pretty bad at outroing videos, so let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments. Feel free to DM me directly. Remember, we have a new Discord, so go ahead and hop into that. We're gonna be using that as much as possible, trying to be a bit more community focused. Speaking of, I need to do some stuff in Discord in just a little bit, so we'll be getting onto that as well. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you guys want to keep up with more, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Peace out.